Crowded houses playing with fire. And coming up, Sheryl Crow. Well, they were certainly talking about carbon. I'm not sure in the fire context exactly at COP26. There's an interesting article that relates to agriculture and methane gas, and we have on our Country Viewpoint program with Ricky Lambert regularly Matt Dalgleish from Thomas Elder Markets. He's written an interesting article that talks about the global energy and transport sector being responsible for 73.2% of our emissions, and that the load of bulldust when it relates to methane. The very small amount of livestock that are involved in creating any of these particular warming components. Globally, 86% of livestock feed intake is made up of plant material. There is not edible for humans, and animal production systems turn that high quality nutrient rich into meat protein for us to eat. And interestingly enough, he writes, the livestock component of the emissions ledger account for just 5.8% of total global emissions, of which 95% was methane based. I've got Matt on the line and he joins me to discuss the relevant issues. G'day, Matt.
I'm good, mate. Yeah, going well.
And Matt, you've made some comments in relation to the contribution of the beef industry to the climate change summit that we've just heard recently and the percentages. Could you elaborate on how you see the numbers of, if you like, cattle and their impact on the climate change or global warming at the moment?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. The narrative often that you see in social media particularly is that livestock, and particularly if you look at which livestock, it's always cattle that seem to be the bogeymen in the picture, and that they're somehow emitting all these greenhouse gases and they're the big emitter that's destroying the environment. But when you actually look at the numbers that come out globally, it's absolutely not the case.
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation with the summit recently. A lot of nations have signed up to various different accords for this. How do you see the Australian government on this position? I note that Australia had taken a more conservative approach.
Yeah, that's right. Look, and the two big emissions kind of narratives that came out was the reduction in methane, that was made pledges to reduce methane emissions, and the halting of deforestation and looking to reforest areas that have been deforested. And I think the Australian government decided to not sign on to either of those, including the likes of India and China. I think we're also, and Russia, were also reluctant to sign on. I think it was curious to see that the methane was the one that got the most kind of traction at COP26, given that methane's not the big polluting or not the big greenhouse gas emitting. Carbon's the big one in the mix there, and it's odd that carbon kind of seems to be forgotten and everything's focused on methane. And methane's a problem, don't get me wrong, and we need to kind of address all the greenhouse gases, but I would have thought the carbon one would be the one you'd really target first, given that that's more than 73% of global emissions are from the energy and transport sector and carbon-based, and not from the livestock sector.
So thanks, Matt. There you see that there is a very different perspective on just how much methane really is involved and what Australia should or shouldn't be doing about it. And looking forward to hearing more from Matt Dalgleish from Thomas Elder Markets.